Hey there, Sammy here with another episode of the Digital Marketing Therapy Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. We are talking about organization and how to keep your team connected when you're not working in the same office space anymore. So a lot of different businesses are in very different situations with regards to what the work situation looks like. Do you have some people in the office? Do you have people coming in and out and rotating on a different timeline so that you don't have people there all at the same time? Whatever that is, it's definitely different than what we're used to. And as we look into the fall and schools opening or not reopening, people needing to stay home and homeschool, there's a whole nother level of how do we keep our teams connected, productive? How do we keep moving things forward while still supporting each other and understanding that what we're going through right now is not like anything we've ever had to experience before. Our businesses have had to become agile in a way like we haven't had to before, adjusting the way that we process our information, put things out to the audience, the way that we fundraise, the way that we sell our products, all of that is evolving and changing. And not to say that it's all a bad thing, but it's, how we then get our teams to be efficient and effective is just kind of another piece to that puzzle. So in today's episode, I know we've been home for a while, so it might seem odd that I'm choosing to do this topic now. But I just do feel with schools and any parents that you have that work in your office, this is a topic that's going to come up again. And again, businesses are going to have to become flexible and figure out what's the best way that they can support employees while still getting work, business, keeping things afloat. So that's what I'm going to share with you today is some of my ideas for ways that you can do that within your organization. And if you listen to this episode and you're like, okay, I like these ideas. I really want to just have like a quick call to just kind of say, okay, here's where our situation is. What suggestions do you have for me? I would love to do that with you. And you can book time with me, 30 minutes. All you have to do is go to thefirstclick.net/office hours. Book 30 minutes with me. We can strategize. We can go through your business, what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and how we can kind of create some tools and systems around your team so that you can be effective and efficient and get things done and keep serving the amazing people that you serve and do the same for your employees. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And again, if you want to book time with me, it's thefirstclick.net/office hours. But for now, let's get into the episode. You're listening to the Digital Marketing Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, Sammy Bedell-Mulhern, and each week I bring you tips from myself and other experts, as well as hot seats with small business owners and entrepreneurs to demystify digital marketing and get you on your way to generating more leads and growing your business. Okay, so the biggest hurdle that I find when it comes to remote workers is communication. And having a communication tool is really great for your team to stay organized on specific topics, but also to kind of keep that fun conversation going, to support wins, to provide resources, all of that good stuff. And one of my favorite tools for that is Slack. There's other tools that you can use. Some people use WhatsApp, Voxer, whatever. There's lots of ways that you can have communication flowing between your teams. But I really love Slack for a few reasons. One, there's a lot of ways that you can use it for free. So it's not going to be cost prohibitive to your organization. But I love that inside your company thread or your company, I'm going to say some of these terms wrong because I'm not like that into anyway, I'm going to say probably some of these categories wrong. But as you go into your business that you've created in Slack, then in each in there, you can create as many channels as you want. And different employees can be a part of different channels. So it just depends on how large your organization is. So maybe you have a marketing channel, maybe you have, or if your marketing department is huge, maybe you have it by specific projects. Maybe you have a company-wide like cheerleading chat channel so that, you know, you can share wins with the company as a whole, whatever. It's really easy to format. It integrates with all sorts of things like Google Drive, all of the apps that you would need, Zapier, whatever. And so it's just a great way to communicate with your team and keep projects separate, because the thing that drives me crazy is when emails are flying back and forth, and then all of a sudden somebody adds one other topic to this email thread. And then when you go back to try to find it, you're like, I can't even find this information, right? And so this way, you can have different channels for different topics. All of those chats go in there. You can tag people in it very easily, and it's really easy to use. It's great on desktop. It's great on your phone. So I would highly encourage you to check out Slack and have some fun with it, and bring your whole team on board so that you can communicate and keep things moving forward. Now, the second thing for me that I'm obsessed with is a project management tool. Now, the beauty of Slack and project management tools is a lot of times they integrate well together, so that if there's a change made on the project management software, it'll automatically notify people in ClickUp as well. Or not ClickUp, sorry. I just spilled the beans about my favorite project management tool. It'll notify people in Slack, and you can make adjustments back and forth in that way. So that's also really good. But yes, ClickUp is my favorite project management tool by far. It's really robust. It allows you to see a lot of different things. And same, you can have chats directly in that. You can see what people are working on. You can see who's online and who's active and working, which is also great. You can set goals in there, which is wonderful. I love that, because if you put goals in there, your team, let's say it's a fundraising goal and you've got $10,000 that you want to raise, and you've got activities that you're doing towards it, and you're tracking all of that in ClickUp. And then as you hit that goal, the whole team that's part of that goal can celebrate together and kind of see the progress. So I highly recommend checking out ClickUp. Again, there's a lot you can do with it in the free version. But there's some other great project management tools out there as well, like Asana is a popular one, Trello, Monday, I think Monday.com. And anyway, and I'll link up all these resources in the show notes so you can check them out at your leisure. But when you're all working remotely and you're trying to make sure everybody's working on the same, like trying to do the same thing to move people forward or move the organization forward, it's a lot harder when you're not in the same place. And so having this project management tool can be really helpful in making sure that everybody knows what their main priorities are. You've got an easy place to communicate in Slack to say, hey, I need help with this, or I've got questions about that. You can still communicate on a regular basis. And then that kind of leads me to my third piece, which is sort of creating a schedule. Now, it's summer, the kids are home. Maybe if you don't have kids, there's just other things that are happening around you, and, there's trips and there's vacations. And then as we get into the school year, schedules change again. And so one of my recommendations is sitting down with your department. And again, this depends on the size of your organization, right? But sitting down with maybe it's just your development team, or maybe it's just the finance team, or maybe you're only 5 people in your office, and so it's the entire team all together. And really taking a look at the needs of each person's kind of situation. So maybe you say, okay, we don't care when you put your hours in, but we know we're all going to be working online from like 7 to 10 and from 2 to 4. I don't know, whatever it is. Or maybe it's from 10 to 2. People can pick up hours other places, but then, if you can communicate with your team and say, okay, well, here's where we know we all want to be active and working, so that if people have questions, they can get them answered, but then also wanting to give you the space to do some of the things that we didn't think we'd have to do anymore, like homeschooling. Not being able to send your kids to daycare in the summer, not being able to have that flexibility of having a nanny in your house, or whatever it was that you were doing before, like that's all changed. And so we need to be respectful of that and supporting our teams in a way to make that less stressful. And the beauty of that too is if you can carve out that space, if there can be that open communication, your team members are going to be way less stressed out. They're going to be way more productive. And there's not going to be that kind of animosity between people of, feeling like certain people aren't pulling their weight, or things aren't happening and I can't ever get a hold of this person. More communication and creating that team schedule, I think, is a key thing that I haven't seen a lot of organizations doing. And I just think it's so important to understand that this is not a choice that parents have made. And I know there's a lot of people out there that aren't parents, and it's sometimes that could be a sticky conversation as well, but we need to support each other and have a little bit of grace for kind of what that looks like. So you've got Slack set up for communication. When you're available to communicate with people. Oh, and that's another beautiful thing about Slack is you can set away hours. So people know, hey, you're not here. You're not going to respond until this time, right? You'll say notifications are turned off until a certain time. So that's another great tool. You've got your project management set up. So everybody's on the same track. Everybody knows what they're doing. Everybody knows what they're working on. And you as a manager can track what's getting done, what's not getting done. And the last kind of tool that I want to throw out there, which is kind of obvious, and hopefully you're doing this already, is video conferencing. Now, I love Zoom. Zoom is definitely my go-to. I know they've had some things in the media with regards to security, but I'm a big fan of Zoom. It's super easy to use. And I definitely recommend, and again, this depends on the size of your team, but weekly check-ins. And these don't have to be long. And if you can really make them tight and succinct, if you're using your project management tool, you can literally pop in and say, okay, these are the big 3 things we got to get done this week. So what's the status update on this, and this? And then you move on. And because everybody's communicating within the project management tool, you don't have to go through a lengthy process, right? Communication is happening. We all kind of know where things are, but this is a conversation, a chance to say, okay, how's everybody doing? Where are we stuck? What things do we need to help push through? And just make sure that things are staying on track. So if you're a larger organization, it might just be that the development team gets together, the executive team gets together, the finance team gets together, the program development team gets together. So you might have separate groups and then just your executive team. So maybe if you're on the executive team, you're having multiple meetings, whatever. If you're a smaller organization, maybe it's just the entire organization is coming together to chat on Zoom. And then just depending on the culture, the vibe, and the feel for your business, maybe you do once a month or every other week social happy hour hang, and people can kind of come together and just chat about not work stuff and kind of continue to build that culture that you're trying to build. Again, depends on the company that you're at, depends on what you're trying to achieve, how you've been before this. It's different, but you can absolutely use video conferencing to continue to build and grow that culture so that when you do all come together, again, at some point, hopefully, you haven't lost that momentum of those things that you were trying to build. So nothing crazy earth-shattering, but I hope that some of these tips did bring to light some ideas of ways that maybe you can ease some of the stress for some of your employees and your team and you as well, so that you're still hitting those goals, but maybe being a little bit more efficient and making better use of your time. I mean, hey, if Twitter can come out and say, remote working has been going so well for us that we're going to allow our employees that want to stay home to work from home indefinitely. I mean, if a company like Twitter can do that, we can all do that. It just takes some different thinking. It takes some different management style. It takes, really being clear about the communication you expect, the processes that you expect, and making sure that all the team members and employees are putting things out there in the way that you all expect. And I will say, when it comes to onboarding things like Slack and a project management tool, the last kind of piece of advice that I'll share with you is you really need to be like military style consistent with it. Like anytime somebody sends you an email, no, it has to go into Slack or it has to go into our project management tool, whatever it is. Everything has to be just drilled in because it will take time for people to adjust. But once everybody gets adjusted and it starts working and the flow starts happening, I promise you, you will be a very happy camper. So just as a final wrap up, communicate through a tool like Slack, WhatsApp, Boxer, whatever works for your company. Set up a project management tool. I love ClickUp, but there's lots of great options out there. Create a schedule so people know when they can access people and what makes sense for the team as a whole. And then make sure you're touching base with your entire team on a weekly basis so you can see each other's faces and catch up and see how projects are moving along. Okay? If you have any questions, please definitely hit me up. You can find us on Facebook at The First Click Marketing. But for now, I hope that you'll subscribe wherever you listen so you don't miss out on a single episode. And I will see you in the next one.